Dr. Elena Kovac stared at the seismographic data, her coffee growing cold in her hand. The readings were impossible. For 3 months, her team at the Deep Earth Research Institute had been tracking anomalous energy signatures emanating from the planet's core. What they'd found defied everything humanity thought it knew about geology. "Run it again," she told her assistant, Marcus Webb. "There has to be an error." Marcus shook his head, his dark eyes fixed on the holographic display floating between them. "I've run it 73 times, Elena. The signature is consistent. It's not geothermal. It's not radioactive decay. It's fusion. Controlled fusion." The implications crashed over her like a tidal wave. Earth's core wasn't just a ball of molten iron and nickel. It was a reactor, a massive, self-sustaining fusion reactor that had been operating for billions of years. And somehow, against all odds, it was generating a containment field that prevented the planet from tearing itself apart. "Get me Director Patel," Elena said quietly. "This goes up the chain. Now." Within 48 hours, the discovery had reached the highest levels of government. Within a week, the news leaked to the public, and the world erupted into chaos. Religious leaders declared it proof of divine engineering. Scientists scrambled to verify the findings. Conspiracy theorists claimed they'd known all along. But for Elena and her team, the real work was just beginning. If the core was a fusion reactor, it had to have been built. The question that kept her awake at night wasn't how it worked, it was who had made it, and why. The answer came from an unexpected source. A graduate student named Thomas Reeves, working late in the lab, noticed something strange in the data patterns. The energy fluctuations weren't random. They followed a mathematical sequence, one that repeated every 41,000 years, corresponding roughly to Earth's axial precession. "It's a signal," Thomas said, his voice trembling with excitement. "Someone's trying to communicate." Elena pulled up the full dataset, her heart pounding. Thomas was right. Embedded in the fusion reaction patterns was information, vast amounts of it, encoded in ways that suggested technology far beyond human capability. "We need a decoder team," she said. "Cryptographers, mathematicians, linguists, anyone who can make sense of this." As the team assembled over the following weeks, Elena couldn't shake a growing sense of dread. They were walking on a reactor that had been operational for 4.5 billion years. Its creators had hidden it at the center of the planet, beneath thousands of miles of rock and magma. They'd made it invisible, undetectable by any technology humanity had possessed until now. The question wasn't just who had built it anymore. The question was, what were they hiding from? 3 months of round-the-clock work had produced results that should have been impossible. The decryption team, led by cryptographer Aisha Rahman, had cracked the first layer of the message encoded in Earth's fusion core. What they found turned humanity's understanding of its own history into dust. "It's a warning," Aisha announced to the assembled scientists and government officials. Her hands trembled as she navigated through the holographic translation. "And an instruction manual." Elena leaned forward, studying the alien symbols that had been converted into English. The language processing AI had taken weeks to establish even basic pattern recognition, but once it found the key, the message had unfolded like a flower. "The creators call themselves the architects," Aisha continued. "They seeded hundreds of worlds across the galaxy with fusion cores approximately 5 billion years ago. Earth was one of them. The cores served 2 purposes: to stabilize planetary magnetic fields and to serve as incubators." "Incubators for what?" Director Patel demanded. Aisha's face had gone pale. "For intelligent life. The fusion reactions don't just power the planet's magnetic field, they emit a specific type of radiation that accelerates evolution. We didn't evolve by chance. We were engineered. Every species that's ever lived on this planet was shaped by the reactor beneath our feet." The room erupted into shouting. Elena sat frozen, her mind racing through the implications. Everything, the Cambrian explosion, the rise of mammals, human consciousness itself, had been guided by alien technology. They weren't the masters of their own destiny. They were the product of an experiment that had been running for billions of years. "There's more," Aisha said, her voice cutting through the chaos. The room fell silent. The warning. The architects left instructions for when a civilization reaches the technological level to detect the core. They say we need to understand how to control it, because something is coming. What's coming? Elena asked, though part of her didn't want to know. The harvesters. Aisha pulled up another section of the decoded message. They're the reason the architects built the cores in secret, buried deep where they couldn't be easily found. The harvesters travel through the galaxy looking for fusion reactors. They consume them, drain them completely. The architects hoped that by the time a species evolved enough to find the core, they'd also be advanced enough to defend it. Marcus spoke up from the back of the room. "How long do we have?" "The message includes sensor data," Aisha replied. The architects detected a harvester vessel entering this sector of the galaxy approximately 5,000 years ago. Based on their projected trajectory and speed. She paused, checking her calculations again. They'll reach Earth in 16 months. The silence that followed was absolute. Elena stood slowly, her scientist's mind already shifting into problem-solving mode. Fear was a luxury they couldn't afford. Then we have 16 months to learn how to defend a fusion reactor the size of Mars, buried 4,000 miles underground, that we only just discovered exists. Director Patel's jaw tightened. "Get me the president. And someone find me every physicist, engineer, and military strategist on the planet. We're going to war." The modified drilling vehicle, christened Prometheus, hung suspended in its launch cradle 2 miles beneath the Nevada desert. It looked more like a submarine than any land vehicle, a 100-foot cylinder of titanium and carbon composite, bristling with sensors and protected by experimental heat shielding that had cost $3 billion to develop. Elena stood on the observation platform, watching the final pre-launch checks. In 6 hours, she would be inside that machine with 5 other people, beginning a journey no human had ever attempted, a descent to Earth's mantle, and beyond, to make direct contact with the fusion reactor at the planet's core. Second thoughts. Marcus joined her at the railing, carrying 2 cups of coffee. "Too many to count," Elena admitted. "We're going to drill through 3,000 miles of rock and metal, into a fusion reactor that's generating temperatures hotter than the surface of the sun, and somehow survive long enough to interface with alien technology we barely understand. The list of things that could kill us is longer than the mission manifest. That's why they picked us," Marcus said with a grim smile. "We're the ones crazy enough to try." The crew was small by necessity. Besides Elena and Marcus, there was Kenji Tanaka, an engineer who'd helped design Prometheus, Lieutenant Commander Rachel Torres, a Navy submariner with experience in extreme environments, Dr. James Okonkwo, a physicist specializing in fusion dynamics, and Ivan Volkov, a geologist who'd spent 3 years in Antarctic subglacial lakes. They gathered for a final briefing in the control room. On the massive screen behind Director Patel, a 3-dimensional map showed their planned route, a diagonal shaft that would take them through the crust, past the mantle transition zone, through the outer core's liquid metal, and finally to the inner core where the fusion reaction was concentrated. "The boring mechanism will handle most of the work," Kenji explained, highlighting the vehicle's drill assembly. "Superheated plasma torches will vaporize rock ahead of us, while the slipstream generator creates a temporary passage that should remain stable for approximately 48 hours, long enough for the round trip, if everything goes perfectly." "And if it doesn't?" Torres asked. Kenji didn't answer. He didn't need to. "You'll have a communications tether for the first 500 miles, Patel said. After that, the rock density and electromagnetic interference will be too severe. You'll be on your own." The architect's message included technical specifications for an interface device, something they claim will allow direct communication with the core's control systems. Dr. Ramon's team has fabricated it according to their instructions. Aisha stepped forward, holding a small crystalline object that seemed to shift colors in the light. We call it the key. The architect's specifications were precise, down to the atomic level. We don't fully understand how it works, but according to the message, once you're within 100 miles of the core, this will establish a connection. Elena took the key, feeling its unexpected weight. It was cool to the touch despite the warm room, and seemed to pulse faintly, as if alive. And then what? Then, Patel said grimly, you convince a 5-billion-year-old alien machine to let humanity help defend it. Because if we can't access the core's control systems, we have no way to fight the harvesters when they arrive in 14 months. 6 hours later, Elena strapped herself into the command chair of Prometheus, feeling the vehicle shudder as its systems powered up. Through the forward viewport, she watched the access tunnel stretching into darkness ahead. All systems green, Kenji reported. Drill assembly at operational temperature. Slipstream generator ready. Beginning descent, Elena said, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her veins. Take us down. The vehicle lurched forward, and they began their journey into the heart of the Earth. 36 hours into the descent, Prometheus crossed into the outer core. The temperature outside had reached 4,500 degrees Celsius, hot enough to vaporize any known metal in seconds. Only the experimental cooling systems, which cycled liquid helium through the hull at impossible pressures, kept the crew compartment at survivable temperatures. Elena checked their depth, 1,800 miles. They were more than halfway there, but the hardest part was still ahead. The outer core was liquid iron and nickel, churning in massive convection currents that generated Earth's magnetic field. Navigating through it was like flying through a metallic hurricane in a spacecraft held together with prayers and cutting-edge physics. Gravitational anomaly ahead, Marcus called out, his eyes fixed on the sensor display. It's the same pattern we detected from the surface, the fusion reactions containment field. We're getting close. The vehicle shuddered as a massive current of molten metal swept past them. Torres fought the controls, keeping Prometheus steady in the chaos. This is worse than any storm I've sailed through, she muttered. And at least in the ocean, you can surface if things go wrong. No pressure, Ivan said dryly, then winced at his own unintended pun. The pressure outside was now over 3 million atmospheres, enough to compress carbon into diamond in seconds. Another tremor, more violent this time. Alarms blared. Hull breach in Section 7. Kenji shouted, his fingers flying over the damage control panel. Emergency seals holding, but the heat shielding is degrading faster than projected. We're losing integrity. Elena made a split-second decision. Increase descent speed. We need to reach the core before the hull fails. That's insane, James protested. We'll burn up. We'll burn up anyway if we stay at this speed, Elena shot back. Torres, take us down. Maximum safe velocity. There's no such thing as safe down here, Torres replied, but she pushed the throttle forward. But what the hell? Maximum velocity it is. Prometheus dove deeper, its drill assembly screaming as it carved through the metallic sea. The temperature climbed, 5,000 degrees, then 5,500. The hull groaned under stresses it was never designed to handle. In the crew compartment, the air grew hot despite the cooling systems running at maximum capacity. 200 miles to the core boundary, Marcus reported, sweat dripping down his face. 150. 100. Elena pulled out the key. The crystal had begun to glow, pulsing with an inner light that matched her racing heartbeat. It's activating. The glow intensified, and suddenly Elena gasped as information flooded her mind, not words, but pure concept, knowledge flowing directly into her consciousness. She saw the core as the architects had designed it, a massive sphere of fusing hydrogen, held in stasis by fields that bent space itself. She saw the control systems, vast networks of exotic matter woven through the inner core like neural pathways in a brain. And she saw the defense protocols, dormant for billions of years, waiting for activation. I can see it, she whispered. I can see how it works. Elena? Marcus reached for her, concerned. The key, it's a neural interface. The architects designed the cores to be controlled by thought, by intention. They knew that any species advanced enough to find the core would have developed sophisticated enough brains to handle the connection. Inner core boundary in 30 seconds, Torres announced. Temperatures at 6,000 degrees and climbing. Through the viewport, they could see it, a hellish glow ahead, growing brighter. And then they broke through, and the entire crew fell silent. The inner core wasn't solid, as Earth scientists had always believed. It was a sphere of pure light, fusion reactions cascading through compressed hydrogen in patterns that were simultaneously chaotic and perfectly ordered. Massive structures, the architect's machinery, spiraled through the plasma like galaxies in miniature, each one controlling some aspect of the reaction. It was the most beautiful thing Elena had ever seen. We made it, Ivan breathed. Elena held up the key, and it blazed like a star. Now comes the hard part. I'm going to make contact. If something happens to me. Nothing's going to happen, Marcus interrupted firmly. Do it. Elena closed her eyes and opened her mind to the core. And the core, after 5 billion years of silence, opened itself to her. The moment Elena's consciousness merged with the core's systems, she ceased to be wholly human. Her awareness exploded outward, suddenly perceiving the entire planet as a living system, every tectonic shift, every magma current, every pulse of the magnetic field. She was everywhere at once, distributed across billions of monitoring nodes embedded throughout Earth's interior. And she was not alone. Hello, child. The voice wasn't sound, it was concept, translated by her brain into something she could understand. We have been waiting for one of you to reach us. Who are you? Elena thought back, her physical body in Prometheus rigid, her eyes glowing with the same light as the key. We are the core, and we are the architects. We are their legacy, their final work. We have watched your species grow from single cells to stargazers. We have guided your evolution, protected your world, and now we must teach you to fight. Memories flooded Elena's mind, not hers, but the architects. She saw their civilization, 1 billion years old when Earth was still forming. She saw their desperate war against the harvesters, massive entities that fed on fusion reactors like cosmic parasites. She saw the architect's solution: seed reactors on lifeless worlds, hide them deep, let life evolve naturally as a side effect of the reactor's radiation, and hope that someday those evolved species would be ready to defend what had been left to them. The harvesters are coming, the core said. In 13 months, they will arrive. You have seen our defense systems, but seeing is not enough. You must learn to wield them. Your species must become the warriors the architects hoped you would be. How? Elena asked. We're barely capable of spaceflight. The harvesters travel between stars. The reactor is more than an engine. It is a weapon. The magnetic field that shields your world from solar radiation can be focused, weaponized. The energy we produce can be channeled through the planet's crust, turned into directed force. But these systems require coordination, many minds working as one. You alone cannot defend us. You need others. In the crew compartment, Marcus watched in horror as Elena's body convulsed. She's seizing. We need to break the connection. No. James grabbed his arm. Look at the readings. The core's energy output is stabilizing, synchronizing with her neural patterns. She's not dying, she's interfacing. Torres pointed at the viewport. The chaotic fusion reactions were organizing themselves, forming patterns that resolved into shapes, symbols, information presented in ways human minds could process. It's responding to her. The core is conscious. God help us, it's alive. Elena's mind raced through the defense protocols, understanding flooding through her. The architects had left detailed instructions, contingencies for dozens of possible attack scenarios. But implementing them required something unprecedented. Humanity would need to link itself to the core, create a global neural network with the reactor at its center. Billions of humans, all connected. Elena's consciousness recoiled. That's impossible. And insane. The loss of individuality, the risk. Not all humans, the core corrected. Only those who volunteer. Only those with the neural plasticity to handle the interface. Your species calls them savants, those with unusual brain structures. They number in the millions. They will become the interface collective, humanity's defense force. And what happens to them? To their minds? They will be changed. Enhanced. They will perceive reality as we do, as a unity of energy and matter, thought and action. Some of your species will fear them. But they are your only hope. Elena felt the weight of the decision crushing her. She was being asked to transform millions of people, to create a new type of human being. The ethical implications were staggering. But through the core's senses, she could feel the harvesters approaching, still far away but drawing closer with each passing day. She saw what they did to worlds they harvested, drained of their cores, their magnetic fields collapsing, their atmospheres stripped away by solar wind. Dead rocks spinning through the void. Show me, Elena said finally. Show me how to wake the collective. The core responded, and Elena's awareness expanded further. She felt the minds of her crew, their neural patterns clear and distinct. Marcus, brilliant and loyal. Torres, disciplined and brave. Kenji, creative and precise. James and Ivan, each with their own unique cognitive architecture. And she felt beyond them, felt the millions of potential hosts scattered across Earth's surface, people who'd been born with brains structured just slightly differently, perfect candidates for the interface. We'll need to ask them, Elena insisted. They need to choose this freely. Agreed, the core said. Free will is paramount. The architects learned that lesson at great cost. We will not make their mistakes. Elena opened her eyes in the crew compartment, the key's light fading from her hand. Her crew stared at her, seeing something different in her expression, an otherworldly calm, a depth that hadn't been there before. I know how to save Earth, she said. But you're not going to like it. 6 months had passed since Prometheus returned from the core. 6 months of chaos, debate, and desperate preparation as humanity grappled with the impossible choice before it, transform or perish. Dr. Elena Kovac stood in the interface chamber, a massive facility built in record time beneath the Gobi Desert. Around her, 10,000 volunteers lay in neural cradles, their minds about to be linked to Earth's fusion core through quantum-entangled interfaces. They were the first wave, the prototype of humanity's defense network. Final systems check, announced Dr. Yuki Nakamura, who'd taken over the technical operations. All cradles show green. Neural pathways mapped and verified. Quantum links stable. Elena walked among the cradles, looking at the faces of those who'd volunteered. They came from every nation, every background. Some were autistic savants with extraordinary computational abilities. Others had synesthesia so profound they could literally see sound and taste colors. Many had brain structures that had made ordinary life difficult but made them perfect candidates for the interface. They were about to become something more than human. Something less than human. Something new. Are you ready? Marcus asked quietly, joining her. He'd lost weight since the descent, the stress of the past months taking its toll on all of them. No, Elena admitted. But we're out of time. The harvesters will be here in 7 months. We need the collective operational, trained, and battle-ready before then. She moved to her own cradle at the center of the chamber. As the first to interface with the core, she would serve as the hub, the central node through which the others would connect. The responsibility terrified her. Remember, she said, her voice broadcast to every volunteer, you can disconnect at any time. The link isn't slavery. It's partnership. You'll still be yourselves, just more connected, more aware. The core will share its power with you, and you'll help it defend Earth. Initiating sequence, Yuki announced. Neural interface in 3, 2, 1. The world dissolved. Elena's consciousness exploded across the network, suddenly experiencing reality through 10,000 perspectives simultaneously. She felt Marcus in the control room, his concern like a warm pressure. She felt each volunteer as they came online, their minds blazing like stars as they connected to the core. And through them all, she felt the core itself, vast and patient and ancient, embracing them like a parent welcoming children home. Welcome, the core's voice resonated through the collective. Welcome, defenders of Earth. The volunteers gasped as information flooded their minds, understanding of physics that would have taken lifetimes to learn, awareness of the planet's systems, tactical knowledge left by the architects. They saw Earth as it truly was, a living battleship, camouflaged as a natural world, waiting for its crew to take their stations. I can feel everything, someone whispered, Jennifer Park, a mathematician from Seoul. The continental plates shifting. The ocean currents. The magnetic field lines. It's beautiful. Focus, Elena commanded gently. We have work to do. The harvesters will target the core directly. We need to learn to manipulate the magnetic field, to turn it into a weapon. Core, show us how. The training began. The collective learned to bend magnetic field lines, to channel the core's fusion energy through planetary conduits the architects had embedded in the mantle. They practiced firing bursts of directed electromagnetic energy into space, learning to aim them with precision. They also learned to move as one consciousness while maintaining their individual identities, a delicate balance that required trust and discipline. Some couldn't handle it and disconnected, their minds retreating back to isolated human existence. But most stayed, thrilled by the power and connection they'd found. We're getting reports from around the world, Marcus said after the first day of training. People are scared. There are protests in every major city. They're calling the collective the hive, saying you're not human anymore. Elena, still in the interface, felt a pang of sadness. They're not entirely wrong. We're something new. But we're still human where it counts, we're still fighting to protect our home. The months passed in a blur of training and preparation. The collective grew as more waves of volunteers joined, eventually numbering in the millions. They established a command structure, with Elena as the central coordinator but decisions made democratically through instantaneous quantum polling of the collective's members. They built weapons, massive magnetic field projectors on every continent, synchronized to the core's pulse. They created shields, atmospheric density zones that could be manipulated to absorb or reflect energy. They prepared traps, pockets of compressed spacetime that could snare unwary attackers. And finally, with 1 month remaining before the harvester's arrival, they tested their greatest weapon, the core itself, its fusion reaction ramped up to wartime output, ready to unleash power that could shatter moons. We're as ready as we'll ever be, Elena told the assembled world leaders in a virtual conference. The collective is trained. Earth's defenses are active. Now we wait. And if we fail? The president asked. Elena's expression hardened. Then at least we'll fail fighting. The architects gave us this gift, this chance to become something greater. We won't waste it. In orbit above Earth, invisible to human telescopes, a massive ship accelerated from near-light speed. Inside, ancient intelligences studied the planet below with interest. This world was different from others they'd harvested. This world had awakened its core. This would be interesting. The harvester ship emerged from stealth at the edge of the lunar orbit, and every human on Earth looked up in terror. It was massive, a dark sphere 10 miles across, its surface absorbing light like a hole in space. No windows, no obvious propulsion, just impossible mass hanging in the void. In the interface chamber, Elena's eyes snapped open, glowing with the core's light. Through the collective's shared consciousness, she felt the fear of billions of people, felt the steady resolve of the millions in the interface, felt the ancient anger of the core itself. "They're here," she announced, her voice echoing through the quantum link to every member of the collective. "Battle stations. Execute protocol architect." Across the planet, magnetic field projectors hummed to life. The collective moved as one organism, millions of minds orchestrating Earth's defense with perfect coordination. They shaped the planet's magnetic field into a focused beam and fired. The directed electromagnetic pulse crossed the distance to the harvester in seconds, energy equivalent to a solar flare, compressed into a lance of pure force. It struck the dark sphere dead center. And did nothing. The harvester absorbed the energy without even slowing, its surface rippling like water as it drank in the power. Then it returned fire. A beam of darkness, not light, but its absence, lanced down from orbit. It struck Mount Kilimanjaro, and the mountain simply ceased to exist, along with everything within 50 miles. 5 million people died in an instant. The collective screamed in shared agony, feeling each death like losing parts of their own body. Elena fought to maintain control, pushing through the pain. Shield formation. Density barriers, now. The atmospheric defense system activated. Layers of air compressed to nearly solid density formed a protective shell above major population centers. The harvester fired again, and this time the beam dispersed across the barrier, spreading its destructive force over thousands of square miles instead of concentrating it on a single point. It bought them seconds. "It's adapting," Marcus shouted from the control room. "Every attack we make, every defense we raise, it learns and counters." "Then we need to hit it with something it can't adapt to," Elena replied. Through the collective, she reached deep into the core, into the ancient architect defenses that had never been tested. "Core, we need maximum power. Are you with us?" "Always," the core responded. "We are one. We are Earth. We are the legacy of those who came before. We will not fall easily." The planet itself began to change. The fusion reaction at the core ramped up to levels it hadn't reached in a billion years, generating power that made the sun look dim by comparison. That energy channeled through conduits of exotic matter, traveling up through the mantle, through the crust, gathering in massive capacitors that the architects had hidden beneath every tectonic plate. "What are you doing?" the president demanded, watching in horror as seismic monitors showed the impossible energy buildup. "Turning Earth into a gun," Elena said simply. The collective coordinated the final sequence. Every magnetic field projector on the planet aligned. Every atmospheric density barrier collapsed, redirecting their energy into the attack. Every member of the interface focused their will on a single purpose: survive. And the planet fired. A beam of fusion plasma erupted from the core, traveling up through a perfectly aligned channel in Earth's crust that had been engineered for this exact purpose billions of years ago. It emerged from the South Pole as a column of stellar fire a mile wide, carrying energy that could ignite atmospheres and boil seas. The harvester tried to absorb it. For 3 seconds, its surface rippled and darkened as it drank in the power. Then it began to crack. "It's working," someone in the collective shouted. "Keep firing." But the harvester wasn't done. Even as its hull fractured, it launched thousands of smaller objects, harvester drones, each one programmed to burrow into the Earth and drain the core directly. They rained down like meteor shower, punching through the atmosphere in streaks of fire. "Intercept protocols," Elena commanded. "Every drone must be stopped." The battle became chaotic. Members of the collective scattered across the globe used localized magnetic fields to deflect drones, crushed them with compressed atmosphere, or simply dropped mountains on them using precisely triggered earthquakes. It was warfare on a planetary scale, humanity wielding its world as a weapon. Hours passed. The great beam from the South Pole continued to burn, slowly tearing the harvester apart. Drones fell like rain, but the collective destroyed them one by one. People died, members of the interface burnt out by the strain, civilians caught in collateral damage, but humanity held the line. Finally, after 8 hours of continuous fire, the harvester's core ruptured. The massive sphere detonated in a flash of light visible from Mars, its remains scattering into the solar wind. Earth had won. In the interface chamber, Elena disconnected from the collective, her body shaking with exhaustion. Around her, thousands of volunteers did the same, many weeping from relief and trauma. They had saved the world, but the cost was written in the ashes of cities and the memories of billions. Core, Elena whispered, holding the key one last time. Are there more coming? Unknown, the core replied, its voice tired, something Elena hadn't thought possible. But we are ready now. You have proven the architect's faith was justified. Humanity can defend itself. Marcus helped Elena from her cradle. What now? Elena looked at the exhausted volunteers around her, at the holographic displays showing the damage across the globe, at the sky where the debris of an alien harvester ship still glowed in orbit. Now we rebuild, she said. And we stay vigilant. We're not just humans anymore. We're not just Earth. We're something new, the first species in 1 billion years to successfully defend an architect reactor. The galaxy will notice. Others may come, seeking our help or testing our strength. She smiled, exhausted but determined. We walk on a fusion reactor that's kept us alive for 4 billion years. Now it's our turn to keep it alive. Welcome to humanity's next chapter. And deep in the core, the ancient machine hummed with satisfaction, its creator's legacy finally fulfilled. Earth had awakened. The long vigil was over. The defense of the galaxy had begun. The end.